Alright, hey guys, today I wanted to look at the trend of modular front panels on your plate carriers and some of the different ways that those can be attached. So I've kind of broken this up into three different categories. We've got placards that attach via side release buckles. We have G-hook attachment, and then like the front panel that comes on the JPC. We're going to call that kind of proprietary or organic attachment methods. All right, so some means that's already built into the vest. And I don't know for sure who else has kind of their own attachment system. I remember the Ferro FCPC. I think that has something similar, but we'll go over that. We'll kind of do the pros and cons of these, and then kind of how to make sure that your vest is going to play well with them. So starting right off the bat, I think the side release buckle is for sure the most common method, and it's pretty flexible. There's not a whole lot of vests out there that can't be made to work with them. Some of them are much more friendly off the get-go than others, but most of them have that availability. All right, so using this Ferro Concept Slickster as our base vest here, we're going to go over the first thing you need to do, which is checking to see if your system will work with one of these attachment methods. So the Slickster right out of the box is pretty flexible. All right, so you can see that it'll take a surface mount side release buckle very easily. You use the repair buckles here, and then it might be kind of tricky, but this is kind of like two MOLLE loops. All right, so half the buckle goes on each side. There's another version of side release buckles. So if you've got one of these regular side release buckles in a repair version, you can just run that on the top half of that, and it'll still work fine. It's just not quite as secure. This one isn't going to flop around, whereas this one has nothing anchoring the bottom. All right. What's cool about the Ferro is that it also takes G-hooks right out of the box because it's got that vertical webbing. You can see that those will lock in there just fine, and those will fit at the appropriate height. Now, coincidentally, that's because this is a Ferro placard, so it's made for that. But any G-hook attachment placard out of the box will work on the Ferros, no problem. And you can see those just slide in on opposing directions there, and then that becomes your cummerbund flap. All right, so looking at the side release buckle attachment, you can see those just pop in. Two of your side release buckles, and again they lay flat, and that becomes your cummerbund flap. Now, one thing you do want to check is the height of these things. You also want to make sure that there's nothing goofy going on with the Velcro. So you can see the Ferro has loop on the outside, and the cummerbund that comes with it also has loop on the outside with hook on the inside. And then I think every placard out there is going to have a hook backing, so that'll create the sandwich that you want there without any issues. I will show you one example towards the end of this that goes against the industry standard and doesn't play well with a placard. All right, guys, so one other thing to consider when you're looking at these, and I apologize if this is jumping around all over the place, is the width of the placard. All right, so most of them are fairly standard at being 3 M4 mags wide, which is, equates in MOLLE math to 6 columns, which is the average cummerbund flap, right? So here you can see this bottom one's a little bit wider, and this is the Velocity Systems 4-cell M4 pouch. I think they just went that wide so that they could fit the utility pouches on the front face of that. And you can see how that compares to the 3-cell 762 version, the M4 ending up about an inch wider. Now, I haven't had any issues with that combination at all. But if you're super stressed and you're worried that your plate carrier is not going to have enough Velcro out there to attach, one thing you can do is you can tighten up your cummerbund in the back just a little bit more and leave some Velcro hanging off the sides here, and you can see how that'll fully mate. So that option's out there if there's a lot of overhang and you're worried about that. That might come into play more if you get like Extreme Gear Labs, one of their placards, one of those custom things. Maybe you wanted to go 5 mags wide. I don't know for sure how wide the Haley one is. That one might be a little bit wider. Or if you go with the Velocity Systems, that's essentially the UW chest rig as a placard, that one might be a little bit wider too. So one other side release variant that I want to look at here, this is the Spiritus Systems micro rig, or microfight, I can never remember the name of it. So this is something that's built to be a chest rig or a placard, and that gives you a little bit more flexibility, again, if you're worried about this thing popping loose. So it's got these tabs here where the waist strap would typically go, and if you're really worried about this thing popping up, something you can do is you can put your side release buckles down here, and you can have a corresponding side release buckle that you've put onto your MOLLE cummerbund. So once you secure your cummerbund, throw the flap down, you can buckle those together. I've never felt the need, but it's there, it's an option. It's not a bad option. You may have to tie the cummerbund portion with some shot cord so that you have enough flexibility to get it attached. But again, that's an option. That also applies to like your Crye chest rig, the Airlight, where it's significantly longer than what the cummerbund flap would be, so that you can secure that a little bit further around your sides. All right, so then the last thing here is looking at the built-in attachment methods. And again, I don't know what else is out there, but I would imagine they're all fairly similar to this, and a variant of this design. Not saying that Crye started it. All right, so the JPC panels have these Velcro tabs on the back, and it's basically like a half-length Velcro MOLLE. And the way that works is you've got this one row of Velcro covered MOLLE up here. You thread those tabs through that. They tuck into the cummerbund pocket, so there's one layer of security, and then when you fold it down, you've got another layer of security. So these, I would say the only con to these, and it's not much of one, is that they take a little bit longer to swap. So if you're almost always going to be using M4 mags, and you've got something on the front of this thing that you like, and you want to have, just a backup in case you switch to 7.62 one day, it doesn't take more than 10 minutes to swap this out. It's significantly faster than trying to thread MOLLE, but it's also significantly slower than doing the side release buckles or the G-hook. And then since we're here and we're looking at it, the JPC 2.0 plays pretty well with the side release buckles out of the box. There's this little tab that comes out of this flap here, and you can put a repair buckle on there. So it'll take all of these same placards, the Spiritus and the Velocity Systems variants, anything with a side release buckle. I had bought these things, these little tack toggle webbing things. I was going to cut these D-rings off and try to use it with the Ferro G-hook placards. But when I had that bright idea, I failed to notice or forgot that this webbing here is oversized. If it was a standard MOLLE loop, this would work fine. But you can see when I put that in there where it would catch on a normal MOLLE loop, it can in theory pull through. Now that I'm showing you, it's catching fine, but earlier, and for sure if I took that side release buckle off, this one end is prone to pull in there, and then your placard can come off. Now, will that move a lot with the placard Velcro down? I don't know. I'm gonna have to try it out, but it's not as secure as I would have liked. So just keep that in mind. And then the last question you might be asking is, if you don't have one of these tabs and you don't have vertical MOLLE like on the Ferro, can you still use side release buckle? You absolutely can. There's several companies that make, I think they're quick attach surface mount, and it's basically a webbing loop that goes through your horizontal molly with a little tab on each end, and you just attach that on both sides of that to your repair buckle, which will give you a side release buckle on your vest, and plenty of people use those with no issues. If you have radio pouches on here, keep in mind that they usually have offset Velcro on there, so that your cummerbund is less likely to pull the radio pouch off than it is to stick to the vest, so you lose a little bit of attachment there. Not a huge deal, just keep that in mind. Alright, and then to wrap this all up, I told you guys I'd show you a failure of the Good Idea Fairy on my part. So this is the KDH vest that my crew field runs. It's spear cut. It's their ATPC. I don't know, they call it a plate carrier. It's not even close to a plate carrier because it has bulks in it. But you can see it's got this bottom flap here that's supposed to keep your cummerbund in place. And then your cummerbund here is hook or loop on both sides. This is the only one I know that's like this, and I failed to notice it before I cut my flap off because I was going to use the Spiritus thing on there, and to my unfortunate surprise, I now have a giant chunk of hook in the middle that doesn't do anything to attach to my placard. The solution I've come up with is I'm going to get, I have a different cummerbund that is going to go closer to the middle, and it'll give me a full loop field, but that's something to keep in mind, and it's not going to be something that's advertised by the manufacturer, so you're just going to have to figure it out, is if they do something completely asinine with this where your cummerbund is loop on both sides or hook on both sides. I have no idea why they did this. I've never seen another vest like this, but just pay attention to that.